Hi, hi all. Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, so I hope I am audible enough. Yeah,
Yeah, you are audible. Am I audible?
yeah. Okay, so I think we can start the session now. Okay. So first of all, thank you all for joining and welcome to our webinar on Polish Magento code quality for lasting performance and maintainability. So, let me introduce myself. I am Rinal, your host for today's session, and I am very excited to be here. Okay. So, before we start the session, I will give you an overview of what we will be covering in the session. Okay. So, in this webinar, we are going to take you on a journey to the technical significance of maintaining a code base for an online store. And you will discover how well optimized and secure codes can transform your e-commerce game. And it also help you to achieving a good result. So, and of course, we have allocated a time for Q&A time at the end of our session. And if you have any queries, you just raise your hand or you can drop out the chat and we will discuss at that time. Okay. So now let's meet our speaker, Mr. Sandeep Shivakumar, who is one of the technical leads of Kodla Technologies, and he's our true expert. And he has 4 years of experience in the field of Magento development. Okay, so that's it. Yeah. Okay. So Sandesh, yeah, welcome to the
Yeah,
session, and I
yeah.
think
Thank you.
you can take over now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rinal, for giving a quick intro about me. So,
Sandesh, I
yeah,
couldn't hear you.
can you hear me now?
One second, please. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Sorry. Yeah, I can
yeah,
hear you now. Okay.
yeah. So, thank you for giving a quick intro about me. So, I'm also excited to start. So, I guess we can start then without further ado.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hi, hello everyone. So, basically, as uh, today's topic is basically on like the topic of polishing the like polished Magento coding code quality for your lasting performance and maintainability of your store. So, let me share my screen. We have a presentation. So I hope the screen is visible for everyone. If so, yeah, just type yes in the chat box. Yeah, thank you. So let's go through what are the contents which we are going to cover in the today's session. So basically, we'll just have a quick introduction on what is the basic coding standards, like why do we have to do it, and all those things. And then we will just discuss on the common code quality issues, like basically whenever a beginner or someone who is starting their career in Magento development, so obviously everyone will do have some like they do some mistakes on how they will not be aware of basically what is the actual standard or how to do few things. And so as on like every now and then the whenever the Magento releases a new update, so there will be some minor performance changes and also some syntactical changes which everyone needs to be adapting. So if the people are not or the developers are not adapting to that changes, so they are bound to make mistakes like this. And we'll also discuss about like what are those coding standards which we have to follow and what are the guidelines. and also we will go through the tools and techniques for assessing your code. So obviously everyone needs to be aware of what mistakes they are doing, and there should be someone to guide them. So I will be going through few of the tools which you can configure for your local development purposes, so which will help you basically in like writing a better code and also like building up a good software. So then the next topic is on like the why, like what is the importance of maintaining the code quality. So there will be obviously some genuine reason why people like people say you have to follow the coding standards and all the other things. So we will go through that as well, like what is the reason behind that. And so, if there is some scenario where you have been given some outdated codes, like there can be a few conditions where you might be handling a project which is already built by someone which has a very poor code quality. So, how do you basically refactor those things? So, we'll go through that as well. And at the end, we will have a conclusion of, or like, we'll just have a outro on all the topics which we have discussed. And after that basically we will be having just a Q&A session, so where you guys can have like post your questions or ask your questions, so I would be happy to answer that. So yeah, so basically the intro of this webinar topic is like so now the current world is basically a digital world. So every e-commerce business has to be in the online to make their presence and to gain popularity and also boost their sales. So no one actually just simply use their offline stores to get more revenue. So because if just assume if Amazon was just basically a normal store, so they would not have been this popular like what now they have been. So basically every people nowadays have their mindset set like where if they want to buy something they just go to online, and so they have to purchase there. So whenever you are going to buy few things, so there is something called as user customer engagement and user experience. So if the site is very slow and if you are actually if the site is very poor in terms of performance, then obviously your sales will be down, and the customers will be feeling irritated to like just browse your site. And obviously when they are irritated to browse your site, then obviously it's like you the user will leave the site and they won't come back again. So you will basically lose a customer basically when the site is not properly built. So the main reason why we have to keep in mind the coding standards is, so it doesn't help you just build a code which is not like which is readable for everyone. It also helps in scaling up the website whenever you want, like you can have new features added into it and there will be no hiccups in that. And you will also basically when the coding standards are maintained properly, also there won't be any issues in your website in terms of slowness or like whatever bugs or something. So because it improves your site's performance indirectly. So that is the main reason why we are basically uh, why we basically want each and every developers to use this coding standards. So the next thing is, what are the most common code quality issues which every beginner or like the initially when they come into Magento, so the developer does. So first point is code redundancy. So basically you have to keep in mind that so you have to reuse your codes. So you should not rewrite the same code again and again in every place. So it doesn't it basically complex makes your file like look complex, and also it takes some time to load. So when you rewrite the same code again and again, obviously the file size also increases, and it also makes an impact in terms of speed. So basically, you might think, what will happen if I just rewrite some 5 to 10 lines of codes for once? So that one mistake can happen multiple times in different files, and that can lead to that mistake can be happened everywhere, and each file size of some kbs might increase, and it will obviously lead to the slowness of loading that files. So basically, your CSS and JS, obviously, it will be served as a static assets to your browsers, right? So so you need to keep in mind that you basically use functions wherever you think that this part of code can be reused, and you can just call your method whenever you want, so that that code will be become reusable. So the next thing is usage of core php functions. So you might be thinking why we should not use the core php functions. So I can give you a few examples, like you should not basically use the curl method which php offers. Like in magento, you have a curl class defined for making the api request, and also you have a serializer json class for decoding and encoding. So it's not like if you use curl or directly JSON underscore encode and JSON underscore decode, you can't use it. It's not like that, but you should avoid using it, because basically Magento is following the OOPS standards, right? So you should also make use of those like a abstraction layer, so that you should not make any security vulnerabilities while building your code. So that is the main reason why we should stop using the core PHP functions. So that is one of the thing. And then it comes with like Magento SQL queries. So you should need to stop using the Magentos, like in Magento, the SQL raw SQL queries directly. So because it is it can lead to a potential vulnerability in your site, where the SQL injection or some basically some attacks can happen on your site. So so we always should prefer using the repositories, or else your models, resource models, and collections. So ideally, even models, resource models, and collections should be avoided using. So because we have the repositories, right? So we have to always use the repositories, so which will help you in the whenever there is a upgradation in Magento. So if they have updated your class, like model class, to some other class, so you have to replace that model wherever you have used. So if you have just used the repositories, so just by changing in the preference in the di.xml, so it should reflect in all the places. So no need of replacing it in the dependencies wherever you have mentioned in the constructor. So that is one of the main reason why we should use the repositories always. And looping of queries, so this is one of the common mistakes which every beginner does. So looping of queries is a major issue, so which will basically make your site go very slow, because in each for loop you are basically trying to run a SQL query, which is not a good thing. So if you have some data to be loaded, like hundreds or thousands of rows to be loaded, so you can directly use the repositories search criteria, and you can search through repositories, or else in the other approach, you can just use the collection. Basically, you just have to add the valid conditions by filtering it out. So through that, what happens is you are just querying all the 100 to 1000 rows in one single query. So you're not looping through each for each array, and you're not trying to load the data. So through that you can basically avoid multiple slowness issues which will happen in the websites. So the next thing is coding standards and guidelines. So basically, what are the standards which we have to follow, and what are the guidelines for that? So basically, first thing is first thing, let me tell why coding standards matters. So consistency and readability. So whenever you write some code, it should be understandable by others. So it's not like if you write your code, it should be only understandable by you. So everyone should need to be able to understand. So that is why coding standards plays a major role in making your code look consistent across all the places, and also it will help in understanding, or like it will help in the readability of the other developers also. They can just go through your code and they should be able to understand what is happening in this current piece of code. So then easier collaboration. So basically, as I said, so when other developers are able to understand your code, what is happening, so they can also contribute to your code. So assume that you have just released a Magento extension and you have open sourced it. So whenever you just open source it, so other fellow developers also can contribute to your extension if there is a bug or if there is any new feature enhancement which other users are asking for. So basically, they can just come and contribute it to your repo. So when the coding standards are not properly managed, and when your code is not readable by others, then obviously no people will want to come and contribute to your code, and which will obviously reduce the usability of your code by others. So that is one of the main thing. And fewer bugs and issues. So when you write code, at least which you can understand, obviously you will be now you can identify the issues and fix it. So when you write some code which is not understandable by you or someone else, so then obviously you can also not fix that issue, or anyone can not help you in fixing that issue because they are also not able to understand it. So that is one of the main reason why coding standards matters in the development. So then, what are the coding standards which we have to follow? So basically, first thing is we have a Magento specific code standards. So we have a different GitHub repo handled by Magento itself. So we can use that Magento coding standards. Though they have a rule set defined over there, and you can basically use that, configure it, and you can generate a report in the CLI. So you can basically give the path of your module to that, and you can basically analyze what's going wrong in your code, what are the issues happening, and it also suggests like you have to add a documentation on every method. So what is the reason for using that method, and what are the parameters, and what is the return type of that method? Everything plays a major, everything is you can track in that. So that is the first tool, which like a coding standard which you can use. And second one is you have to follow the PSR rules. So PSR is nothing but PHP standard, it's a PHP standard recommendation. So I will basically show the list of PSR versions which you have. So PSR is nothing but whenever you are building something, so each and every entities will have its own guidelines. So if you are building like event listeners, so that has a separate PSR guidelines. And if you are handling any queues, so that has separate. And if you are having any cache built, like custom cache, if you want to build, that has a separate guidelines. So I will just share that. And so I guess you guys can see this. So basically, this is the official PSR website. So where you can see there are around 22 PSR guidelines. So where the statuses are mentioned here. Few of them are deprecated, few of them are abandoned, so it's not being used as of now, and a few of them are in draft versions which are yet to be published. So these are few things which you have to follow. Basically, the first thing is basic coding standard. PSR1 refers to the basic coding standards, like the variable should start with dollar, so those things, the basic PHP syntax, so that comes under the PSR1. And PSR3 is for the loggers, and PSR4 is for the auto loading standards. So PSR4 is nothing but, so your basically your namespaces. So whenever you're creating a module and you have a controller or a model, so you will have a namespace defined. So usually no one will use the require or include and put the path like dot slash app slash code, like that no one will do it. So each and every class will have a unique address defined through namespace, and those details, like those standards, are mentioned in the PSR4, which we have to follow whenever we are going to build a module. So this all the other things you guys can have a look later on. So it has all the entities like message interface, caching interface, and containers, and HTTP handler, simple cache, PHP doc tags, everything. So this is all about the PSR4. And now let's go to the next topic. So the next point in that, that is the IDE integration. So whenever you are doing the development, so obviously you can't run each and every time to check the coding standards in the terminal. So it will be a little bit hectic for the developers to do. And if the developer doesn't do it, and after developing everything, if he generates the report, he might see a big list of things which he might feel stressful to do it. So people usually integrate the Magento coding standards in the IDE itself. So you can use the PHP Storm. So in PHP Storm, you can configure your PHP code sniffer and PHP's mess detector using the Magento's rule sets available. So when once you configure it during the time of development only, you will be understanding like what is the issue happening there, and what can be the solution for that. Like when you hover on that, so you will get a suggestion what you have to do. And you have to follow certain guidelines also in that, like you should not increase your word count in a line, like it should not be lengthy, so that the user should need to keep on scroll horizontally to read it. And so you can basically configure it and improve your pace of development, so which will help you in also building a good product. So if you have configured this, and obviously as I said, so we should use the usage of core PHP functions as much as possible. If we have any wrapper class already built in Magento for this, then we should actually go ahead and use it instead of using the core PHP functions. So then the documentation. So obviously documentation plays a major role in your uh, uh, coding. So whenever you document certain things, so it leads to like it increases the understandability of the other users. So whenever if you see a documentation above a method, so you will be understanding what is the method doing. So instead of going through each and every line, I can basically understand what the method is doing on top of that documentation itself. And also if you clearly mention what is the arguments you are expecting to that method, and what is the return type, what type of data type you are returning from this method, so that will be basically increasing the readability and understandability. And also when you are basically creating a variable, so always try to use a understandable or meaningful name, meaningful word, or else it will be confused. So if you just use a variable $a, $b, no one will know what it holds or what it does. So it leads to the confusion. So if you are having a proper a word for the variable, so it will also improve the user's understandability. So then you have to explain the complex logic which you are writing. So suppose you have already given an overview of something, what the method does on like inside this, but if the user still wants to deep dive into that code base, so then there might be some complex logic which the user might not able to understand just by one shot looking into the code. He might have to backtrace it and understand. So instead of that, if you just add a comment line starting stating like what you are going to do in this piece of code, and just add a ending comment once your complex logic is getting finished. So through this, basically you can make the user understand better. So then always try to keep your functions as much as short as possible, because whenever the functions exceed more than like 20 lines, so obviously it helps the other developers it won't help the other developers in understanding in a better way. So it will again lead the developers into confusion, or else it will make the other users to take more time in understanding your code. So always try to keep your functions as much as short possible. And you can basically extract if you think that you have a piece of code like more than 20 lines, just divide that code into 10 or 15 and the rest of that in another method, and you can use it, like you can create a different method for that. So that helps in like the better like that makes your code look better. So next, what are the tools and techniques you can use for assessing your code? So first thing, as I said, like you can use the PHP code sniffer, so which basically analyzes your code in terms of the function length and the line word count, and if the variable is initialized before using, and if the object is created for a particular class, everything it will basically detect. PHP code sniffer will be able to detect once you configure it in the PHP storm. So the next point is the PHP mess detector. So what PHP mess detector does is, so it analyzes your code, and so basically you might have used some nested for loops and nested if conditions, which can be basically merged or which can be avoided in your use case. So some of them, the PHP mess detector will be able to detect it, and it will guide you that instead of doing that, you can basically merge both of the if conditions like this, or you can achieve try to avoid using more for each or in a nested while condition like that. So using PHP mess detector, you can basically analyze those type of things. And then SonarLint. So SonarLint is a plugin which you can use in your PHP Storm. Basically, that is also the main purpose of that tool is also the same. So it analyzes your code, and basically gives you some guidelines on where you are doing wrong in terms of coding standard, and what you can do to fix that. And automated correction. So basically, so this is nothing but you are predifying your code, or importing your class with a qualified namespace. So suppose in constructor you have added the full name path, so full namespace of that class, and you are using it, so it will increase the line count. So what you can do is you can keep all your imports in the top section, and you can just reference that class in your constructor, and you can create an object. So automated correction helps in fixing these kind of things, like fixing your linting, like your spaces, and it basically prettifies your code. So PHP Storm, with PHP Storm, you can be able to do it, and even VS Code, all the other editors also is capable of doing this thing. And the next thing is code reviews. So whenever you basically code, so it's better to have a code review of your whatever you have built through a experienced person. So it's better to go to a experienced person than you, who will be having some idea on this, and you can analyze your or review your get review your code. So through that, you can avoid some of the mistakes which can be avoided. And then so when you obviously get done like the code reviews, so you're catching the issues in the early stage, and before going to the server, like before the deployment only, you are able to identify what is the issue, and you can fix that. So then you can use the git prehooks. So this is something which people very less people does it. So basically you can configure git prehooks. So whenever you are pushing the code to your server, so you can run all kinds of Magento's commands which you want, like setup, di, compile, setup, upgrade, everything. So if any error is breaking your code, so then the code won't be pushed to your remote branch. So that is one of the main advantage which you will get in Prehooks. So sometimes people when they are in a hurry, so they will be obviously not checking everything, and once if everything is going fine, so they will just push it. So when you configure Prehooks, you are basically ruling out that condition. So there will be no syntactical errors which will happen in the server. So you are basically handling that in the initial stage itself. And then there is Sonar Cloud. So you can configure your Sonar, like Sonar Cloud is a service so which you can integrate it to your any version controls, like any services, GitHub, Bitbucket, or GitLab. So when you configure it, so whenever you create a PR, so you can write a this one. So you can integrate your Sonar Cloud Sonar Cloud with your Git repo, whatever you are using service. So your Sonar Cloud will analyze your code whenever you create a PR, and so that will analyze, like whenever the user comes to review, like there will be obviously a maintainer of that repository. So whenever he comes to review your code, so for the bare eyes, people might not be able to recognize the issue. So that time Sonar Cloud will be helpful. So it helps in making like it analyzes your code and catches all kind of issues which are there in terms of coding standards, and it will show in that particular file, like where is the issue. So based on that, you can add your comment, or you can notify your subordinate, like this is the issue happening, and you have to fix it. So that Sonar Cloud is also a very good tool. And the next thing is automated testing. So you should write your unit test, PHP unit test for your each and every classes which you like whichever module you have built. So that helps in doing the automated unit test for yourself, and you can understand that your code works in this scenario. So that is one of the thing which you can do. And you can also bring in your testers who are very well like having a knowledge of Selenium. So they can also do run functional tests on the feature which you have built, so which helps in tracking all the kind of issues. So what is the importance of doing like having this maintainable code? So first thing is long term savings. So obviously, so whenever you build a clean code product, so it will help in reducing the bugs, and it will help in less like you won't uh, use your time most of the time just fixing the issues. So that is one of the main advantage if you have a better coding standard. And then the collaboration and scalability. So as I said, when you are properly maintaining your coding standards, so other people can also collaborate from your team to your code, and you can add a number of features to your code. So you don't have to worry that if I add this might be breaking. So that is one of the main thing which we have to why we have to follow the good coding standards. So the next thing is refactoring outdated code. So whenever you overcome any project which has already been built by someone else, so you have to basically go through each and every module. So you have to note down what are the potential issues and whatever things are there. We have to take step by step. We can't basically do everything in one shot. So we have to go through each and every module, and we have to make incremental changes on that. And we have to have a documentation for each and everything, like whatever we have replaced everything. So that helps in the understandability. And drive principle we have to follow. So that is like, as I said, don't repeat yourself. So try to avoid writing repetitive codes in every places. So try to use like the same code, like try to reuse the code. So that helps in that helps in like writing a better code. And so cleaner all the things we have discussed on the refactoring outdated codes. So and also obviously you can use those tools which I have discussed in the previous slide, in order to review your project and fix all the issues. So now we are in the last slide. So the the conclusion of this maintaining the coding standards is, so it helps basically each and everyone to have a better code. Like whenever a developer writes follows a standard approach of coding, so it will be a win-win situation for everyone. So even others can understand, and your application is bound to be less bug free. And even though if it is any buggy, so you can obviously go and you can fix it as soon as possible, because you know what is happening and what is the reason for this issue, and you can basically fix it. So I guess I have pretty much convinced everyone that everyone should be following this coding standards from now on in terms of development. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay. So, thank you, Sandesh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
okay.
you.
Okay. I hope you have all found this webinar very helpful. Okay. So, I will be sharing a feedback form. So you can fill the form and let us know your suggestion. Okay.
Yeah, meanwhile, if anyone has any question, they can ask.
Yeah, just raise your hand, or you can drop out the chat also. Okay. 1 second. Uh, yes. Yeah, we have one question from Siddharth Singh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mm, yeah, I have made you enough. I have made you unmute. Siddharth. Mm.
Hi Siddharth, you have to unmute yourself.
Who's one? To unmute. Yeah, you just enable the audio. Okay.
So we have next
Yeah,
person
I have some
probably.
issue.
Yeah.
Siddharth has some issue, I think. Yeah, other one is Arjit.
So
Yeah, one other question is Arjit. Yeah. Yeah, Siddharth, you can ask the question in the chat also.
so Arijit, you can unmute yourselves in the top right.
Okay, Siddharth, go.
Yeah, now I'm audible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as you mentioned for the code review that we have one Sonar Cloud, we have that is like better way we can like format like standard our coding standard will reviewed and also give some suggestions as well.
Yeah.
So is there any way to while developing also we are getting the same thing? Because what is happening right now, what issue we are facing right now, we are like while developing when we are creating the PR, that time Sonar Cloud will run, it will give some suggestion, so again we need to do the work. So are there
Yeah.
is there any way to like that suggestion we will do get on the while doing the coding time?
Yeah, so as I said, so you can do this with the PHP CS and PHP MD. So that is the PHP code sniffer and the PHP mesh detector. So you can configure that in your IDE, so in the PHP Storm, and you can analyze that all the issues there only. So Sonar Cloud also gives you like whenever you are having multiple fors or in the for loop you have a if condition, so that time basically you can see a suggestion like try to bring your evaluation score to less than 20 or some specific score you will get. So by that you will understand like what you have like where you have to reduce it. So similarly you can do it in your IDE as well. So but for that you have to configure PHP CS and PHP MD for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Siddharth. Okay. So,
Yeah. Arijit.
yeah, Arjit has one question. Arjit?
Yeah, Sandesh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Sandesh, good evening.
Yeah, good
So
evening.
my question is bit related with Siddharth. So if you can give us some instruction about the PHP CS and PHP standard Sonar, like how we execute. Is there any module? Is there any command to check the modules to check the classes? So those will be better for us. And another more question is like somewhere I have seen that object manager is restricted, which is a part of good quality as well, right? But if you've seen the core classes of Magento, there are a lot of ways, a lot of places Magento even being used object manager. Okay. So how will be the impact with object manager in my class if I add it? How will be the
So
performance will be impacted?
So obviously, whenever you are asking for a dependency in Magento, like in whichever class you are going to create, so internally it has to create an object only, right? So it has to use the object manager. So when you go in internally inside that as well, obviously it uses the new keyword only. So, but in order to avoid the code messing, like so if you create wherever you want any object, so you will obviously use it like you will obviously create it using a new keyword. So every time a new instances will be generated. So you have also noticed something called like proxy and factory. So that is obviously there for a reason where you whenever you want a new instance of a class, you basically use your proxies or factory classes. So you basically if you use the Magento's dependency injection, so you can avoid the ambiguity of creating objects every time whenever you want. So that is the main reason why people should not use object manager in all the places.
All right. Thank you. I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, in the chat we can see Nidin have some question.
Yeah, so
Can
he
you
has
read,
just
Sandesh?
suggested.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah, sure, Nitin. So next time in our webinar, we'll have a like a demo, so where we can configure all the tools which we have discussed in this, and we'll also discuss about like how we can do the functional testings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, Farzin is typing here.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Can you read it, Sandesh?
Yeah. Hi, I have recently submitted an extension to Marketplace, but I have failed in technical review of installation and varnish test. I have checked the coding standard, everything is fine, and the extension is working fine. When I download the error report from installation and varnish test, I couldn't see any errors. Okay. So first thing is like Magento does a series of tests when you are going to publish extension to the marketplace. So you have to take into consideration of all those things, not only the coding standards, but your like your mess detector report should be passed, PHPCS report should be passed, and you should have a proper all the files like composer files and everything, and you should have a documentation for your module, and how to use your module, everything. So there can be those scenarios also which can be like which can be the reason for your extension rejected from publishing it to the marketplace. So yeah, so you have to basically um, run your extension with all the Magento coding standards as well, and the PHP's standard coding through the PHP CS and PHPMD as well.
Okay. Hmm. Does anyone have any queries? Yeah, Farzin. I think Bhakta is typing.
Okay.
Hmm. Okay. Okay, so nice. Let. Yeah, Bhakta, I have made you unmute.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Uh,
have a query regarding
like
coding standard. So now we are using PHP
yeah.
8.1, like in constructor direct we are injecting, but when we will call the parent constructor, suppose so in parent constructor, how that thing will work? Like suppose like we will add one variable directly, we will inject in the constructor, but when we'll try to call the parent constructor, so at that time that coding standard will like how it will check.
So your coding standard will show some warning whenever you have whenever you are extending a class and you have basically just added a constructor which doesn't do anything, like you are just passing the dependencies to your parent constructor. You don't have any individual dependency in that class. So then it shows a just a warning like you can remove this. There is no need of creating a constructor when you don't have any object to be served for your class. So that is the main thing. So when you don't have any individual dependency, even though if you are extending, there is no need of creating a constructor and calling your parent constructor.
Okay.
Yeah. Could you please share any samples on GitHooks if possible? Yeah, sure, Hari. So there is already a GitHub. In the GitHub, we have a pre-hooks already in the by some other person. So I will try to give, if possible, like any samples if I have later on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone have any queries? Any other? Hmm. Okay. Uh, I think no more question. Yeah. Okay. I think
Okay.
so. Can we wind up, Sandesh?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I think you
Thank
are
you.
able. Okay. So I think you are able to submit the feedback form. Okay. Yeah. So thank you all for joining, and I hope it was a great session. So we will be sharing the recorded video soon. Okay. So that's it. Thank you once again. Thank you, Sandesh. Thank
Thank
you all.
you.